Crystron Adventure Special. That's actually really cool to see. We have some insects and branded as well. Make sure you guys smash the link, grab out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. We actually have a working Crystron list for you out here besides the one that we profiled the other day as a little showcase. This build actually made top 8 out of its event. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you here is, yes, we are using the Adventure package in here. We're using the Adventure package kind of on the same premise that we were in some of the earlier builds out here, because basically with the other Synchro builds, you would basically be looking to use this as a way to set up, big pieces to synchro jump off of. And you can also kind of do that in this build, but also this is a free little special summon, and you already know level 3s to get to the Cherubini is going to be very important. Isn't it kind of funny to know that, Cherubini enabled broken combos back in the day? You had all that craziness, and then you kind of fast forward back to this point up here, and yet, you're kind of seeing kind of the same story now. Cherubini's back at the center of being the culprit for what this deck is doing. I do see, Bysteel action in here. The one Citri, probably one of the most expensive cards available in the deck. Same thing with the Quingsing Longdrox. So, in terms of the super expensive cards, we're not dedicating just one copy of each is all that you need. I do see hand trap ratios looking fine. You are doing the Terratop and the Takum Tumborg. Once again, same thing to fuel on into this. Remember, the Clockwork Knight basically allows you to kind of teeter into some of the more BS ways to get the combo going, but once you're able to kind of get into the big lines for this deck and get all those interruptions, there's a reason why this deck is deemed a little bit of a crazy creature. But for the very early stages, this is one of the first looks at how you can actually build this deck and get things going. Yeah, I know, Crystrons, we're actually looking pretty good out here. I like that. Next up here, we have insects. OMG. Now remember, during the last set, we did get these new TCG exclusive insect cards that actually helped out the insect strategy quite a lot. I like these cards, the Supply Soldiers, and of course, we did get the heavy cavalry of the indestructible insects, which was really, really good. Now, keep in mind, this deck is unfortunately, it has to be a combination of all of the insect monsters kind of working together to make this work. Because unfortunately, you got the Battle Wasp, you got the Bee Troopers, even you got the crawler stuff down here. Now, you are also playing 56 cards. I think that's another big thing to kind of understand with the insect stuff. There's a lot of these cards you just don't want to dead draw. Like seeing Spine and, Mr. Raveneer in your hand is kind of going to leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. You're like, yeah, this is why I don't want to play insects, because I feel like I'm going to dead draw into the scenarios like this. Also, really freaking cool enough in here, this build is able to access Small World to allow you the chance to kind of bridge the gap and get some things going. And I also love the fact that you get to play one of any normal insect monster to kind of get things going, depending on what you're doing. Now, this build did choose to play the Kawagata, which is really, really cool. I also do see you have the Scary Moth still seeing play. I mean, one special summon per turn. It's, it doesn't say no special summons per turn. It says one. So, unless your opponent's going to be able to make something very scary to out this, still 1823 is not impressive stats. I'd most likely be putting this in defense mode, so to force my opponent to try to access a very strong link too, to try to out this. But more than likely, I don't think it's going to happen. All right, next up here, we have some branded action. Now, Hakuna has done a fantastic job with trying to explain the reasoning as to why this deck still is able to kind of keep up in the meta. Now, you got to remember, you have to work so much harder with this deck in order to get those victories. I think that's one of the cool things that makes Branded look like a really cool and inviting deck to a lot of people, because now, you no longer have the triple branded fusion. What you're forced to do is you're forced to look at this deck and go, hey, what options can we do? And I mean, obviously, you got the Allures for digging, you get the Book of Eclipse, and of course, these Super Polys for board breakers, which It's actually pretty cool. Also do see that we're going a little bit further beyond here. You do see some gold sarcophagus action in here, which is good. I also see that this build is having access to Maximus. It's also been kind of interesting to see how much more of a problem Maximus kind of feels like he's evolved into in the more recent sets. But, you know, once again, you just get to see the Nadir Servant stuff, just kind of allowing certain decks little extra extensions to actually make those boards that they need to be good. And of course, you are doing the one fusion duplication. I mean, you gotta remember, this deck has I like to call it the really cool roundabout way of getting the branded fusion into the graveyard and then recurring for it. It's actually kind of crazy. Now, of course, you do see that we are having access to the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord in here. I think that this is also one of the cool things. You have to find a way to make this deck stay relevant sometimes, man. And actually just being able to access this does enough. Like, trust me when I say this. Having access to a big, powerful boss monster that literally tells your opponent, absolutely not, we're not doing this, should not be underestimated. And to the people that do underestimate this, well, you're just going to have a bad time, man. Like, that's all there is to it. Oh, we have some Malice action for you. Now, this is what I live for, man. We got some template skippers in here. Now, Mr. Template Skipper, especially some of this card from your hand to a zone, a Cyverse Link monster points to. Now, if you are, you know, playing the Fiend Smith stuff, please do keep in mind that this is not a Cyverse monster, so you cannot special summon to extend to a zone that it points to. But you have plenty of other Link monsters in your repertoire of things to access. And that's what, during the main phase, banish a Cyverse monster from your hand or graveyard, so I can banish my ever so favorite Malice Link monster and revive itself, which is going to be broken. And if you do, this card can be treated as a Link material the same name as that banished monster if used for a Link summon. Ah, yes. I love that my template skipper can become a Malice monster that can then extend that Malice monster back onto the field because of the Malice monster's effect. I never would have guessed the amount of capabilities that I could go through in a pile like this. It just proves how much good stuff you can actually do. See, we're also going with the double tack talents with the 2 thrust in this build, which is fine. You do see the 1 Called by the Grave down here. We are siding the 1 New Mulch Army, which I think is fine. I mean, you've got 3, the 2, and the 1. I think that was the golden ratio that a lot of people were wanting to go with. Just being able just to have one of this is fine. It's one of those cards that, you know, the multiple Perulias can be shaved off a little bit in terms of the consistency. You just want to have this just for when you're going into the mirror match here, so you can kind of get that chain of extra consistency so you can do your thing. Also, hey, look, guys, I found the thrust targets. My opponent's not going to have a good time. And also, we got some Book of Eclipses down here as well, so looking relatively strong. And Malice is definitely one of those decks that I think is going to continue on. All right. Oh, and we have some Fiend Smith Rizel for you. Now, what's interesting about this is, you know, unlike the new hot flavor that's the Mitsurugi build out here that everybody's, you know, super excited for, you know, the Fiend Smith build was kind of the abnormality that came out of nowhere for the TCG version. You know, having access to the multiple engravers, you know, we also kind of saw how good the Wave King Kaiser was for allowing this deck to kind of become, you know, Nibiru proof. Nibiru has kind of taken a little bit more of a back seat in today's meta. I'm not saying that the card is bad, but it feels like it's massively losing a lot of the favor that it was kind of having in the initial first place. So that's kind of pushed the Fiend Smith build a little bit down the power scale ceiling out here to kind of see a little bit of a shift with some things. Now, I also see here we are still side decking the crossouts, which is good. I also see that we're playing 1 copy of the Ultimate Slayer. I mean, doubling down on this is a tech choice with this. Is also kind of funny. Same thing with this. You know, you can also bring these cards in to really power against your opponent too if you do see them, but also having these be crossout targets to ensure your butthole doesn't get blown open is also really freaking funny. I like that. But outside of that, I mean, it's a lot of the same copy and paste stuff that you're seeing. You know, this build didn't actually choose to play Meows, which, I mean, once again, if you really want to get a Meows in here, you can just sub out a Perulia and play it. It just depends on what you think is going to be best for you. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.